Hey, welcome back to JG3 Reviews. My name is James, and today we're looking at the Fountain Pen Revolution Himalaya 2 in both acrylic and natural ebonite. But you might say, James, that pen's been out for a while. Why would you be enthusiastic about that? Here's why. Both of these pens had the Ultraflex nib, and I wanted to revisit this nib, but that's not really the big reason either. The big reason is that by the end of this video, you'll know how you can enter to win one of these pens, the pen of your choice of these two. You'll decide which one you get and which one I keep. So stay tuned for instructions on how to win. But before we get to all that, we need to test this pen. We need to see, is this Ultraflex nib really flexy or ultra? Can that ebonite feed keep up with those tines when they start to flex? And which one of these materials do I like better? Which one of these materials might you like better? We'll look at all of that as we take a closer look at the Himalaya 2. Now, we actually have two great looking pens to take a look at today. The first up is this natural ebonite in red and black, and let me tell you, I really like the way this pen looks and feels. Ebonite, of course, a natural rubber that has been used for making pens for quite a long time. This is hand-turned in India, and the benefit of ebonite is these make for really nice, light handling pens, but the material also is nice and warm, and it just has a good writing feel, and a lot of people do really like it. And I think this looks quite good. Just a nice curved cap there at the finial. The clip is really springy, nice and light, but not so light that it won't hold. It holds well. Then you have the trim ring at the base of the cap, says F.P.R, and no other adornment or anything. Now, I did notice on both of these pens, there's just a factory made, just kind of itty bitty little marks there. Something in the process of making that cap could be smoothed out, but overall, the fit and finish of these pens is quite good. The turning and the polishing is excellent on both the ebonite and the acrylic pen. And then just a plain curved polished end at the end of the barrel there too. When you open the cap, you get 1, 2, 2.5 turns. The pen does post just fine. Very well balanced, even though it is a long pen when posted. I don't mind writing with it either way. It is long enough for most hands. You're going to find a nice, comfortable writing pen. The section tapers down to that flare, and that is a pronounced flare, so you're not going to be slipping off of that section at all. The threads are not bothersome. There's not a real step down other than what comes from the threads. Really nice pen ergonomically. I find it well balanced, and it's a nice writing pen. Now, before we get too far, let me show you the acrylic. And this is a black, gray, silvery acrylic. It has these ribbons that run through the material, and then it has a very nice chatoyant reflection deep down in the acrylic as you turn the pen, and I really like that. Everything pretty much is the same. The polished ends, the nice springy clip, the trim band, all of that is repeated. The only real difference, it is slightly shorter than the ebonite pen. Other than that, pretty much what goes for one goes for the other. You'll notice a very slight weight difference. Acrylic's a little bit heavier. The pen, again, is very nicely balanced. It does post and still is not too back-weighted, especially once the pen is inked. When you open up the pen, you will find an included converter. This is a piston converter pen, and it is a threaded converter. The other one has ink, so I'll open this one up instead, and has pretty wide opening, and I find the piston works fine. Had no issues filling or anything like that, and I would think this would be a pretty easy pen to eyedropper, and you'd have a massive amount of ink in there. Now, this is F.P.R's flex nib, and it does flex quite nicely. You'll see here in the writing sample that it is a nice, springy, flexible steel nib. Many will argue it's still not up to the standards of a vintage gold flex nib, but when you consider what it can do for a considerably smaller amount of money, have you seen the price of gold lately? It's driving pen prices up like crazy. This becomes a really nice, affordable alternative, and you can get more out of this pen than you might think. I also find that if you're not flexing and you're just writing in your normal handwriting with a light touch, it's really just a nice nib for writing in cursive with a little bit of light variation if you're not pushing it. Now, one of the things that I like about this pen is it does come with an ebonite feed, and that is true of either the acrylic or the ebonite version of the pen. And the one that I have inked, it seems to do really well, keeps up just fine, and I don't have any issues with it. And I would say that the tipping point is about an Western extra fine to fine. That's about what it looks like to me, both visually and in the writing when I'm not flexing the nib. As we start our size comparison, let me just show you the difference between the size of the acrylic and the ebonite pen. There is just a slight length difference. Everything else seems to be about the same. For comparison, a pen that a lot of you are familiar with, this is the Jinhao 100 in that Galaxy Blue, just slightly larger than the Himalaya 2. And then another pen from India, one that I happen to have inked up right now as well, is the Canwrite Desire. I reviewed this quite a while back. It has a semi-flex nib. We'll look at that in the writing sample because these two pens perform very differently when it comes to flex. Just in case some of you don't have any of those pens, here is a Platinum Preppy for size comparison. Really, really close in size, but that's about all they're close in. Here are the pens in their uncapped and unposted length, and really a lot closer in dimensions. However, you can see by shape and material, there's quite a variety here in terms of how they're going to feel when they write. And now here are the pens in their posted length, and up to this point, everything's been fairly close, but you really see a difference here. Again, this pen, even though it is this long, is not overly back-weighted. Of course, there is a different balance and feel to the pen when it's posted, but that light ebonite material really makes it a well-balanced pen, even when it's at this length. All right, here we are with the F.P.R. And I'm not focusing on line width here yet. The Himalaya. This is again version 2. It's nice and wet. See there? That's why it's able to keep up so well. Ink today is also F.P.R. and it is Royal Flush. All right, now that's just my normal handwriting. Let me show you the line variation. So this is just no pressure whatsoever, little squiggly. That's just kind of normal. That's medium pressure, a good bit of pressure, and then a lot of pressure. So it keeps up pretty well and makes a nice line. So as you can see, good line width there. And you'll also see it plays nicely with this ink. I got this ink because one of you asked if I would review some of their inks. So I got a set during their Black Friday sale the other day. It was kind of their pre-Black Friday sale. And I got a good discount on this ink. You might want to check it out. No affiliation. I get nothing for saying that. But you might want to check it out. I like the variation on this ink, and that review will come sometime fairly soon. And these pens were also on a really good sale and discount, and may still be. I don't know when that sale was going to end, but it's worth going over there and checking it out. And the shipping was really fast. I had it here in just a few days. So let's do a little bit of different kinds of writing, and let me just show you a few things. So first, I'm just going to write this in my normal handwriting. And you still get some nice bounce, so you get a pretty good little bit of flex, You're writing fairly lightly, so that's not getting a whole lot. Now let me give you a little bit of purposeful flex writing. Now my flex writing is not great. I am not a calligrapher. I'm going to say all that up front. Not to lower expectations, but let's be real. I know what I'm not. I'm not a calligrapher. But let me just show you what the pen itself will do. So you can get really nice line variation, and I like that. There's no scratchiness or anything like that. Of course, you're going to slow down for this, but this has a really nice, light, springy feel to it, comparable to some much more expensive pens with spring and bounce that I've written with. so that even somebody with bad flex writing like myself can get something out of it. Now let me just do something I don't normally do. I usually forget to do the reverse writing. However, last night I found that I needed to do some reverse writing while I had this pen inked up, and it did fine. So there is definitely feedback, and there's a little bit, maybe you could hear it, of what you would typically get with reverse writing, but it does pretty well, and it's kind of, I'm going to say it's an extra fine, might be even thinner than that. Let me just do several of these here just so that you can see how well it does or doesn't keep up before you railroad. How many loops do we get? Well, that's already more than I expected. And a lot of pens that give out before that. Look at that. Okay, I went for speed more than accuracy. That keeps up really well, doesn't it? And it's putting down a lot of ink because the ink really does flow well through that ebonite feed, and this particular ink made by Fountain Pen Revolution in the US flows well in this pen. So what do I like and not like about the pen? Well, what do I not like? Let's start with what I don't like first. I don't really think there's that much to tell you because I've been using this pen for the last few days quite a bit, done greeting cards and things like that, and done some personal writing and note-taking and things like that, and just practicing with the flex. And what I found is that I really like this pen. The ebonite feels great in terms of the material, and the nib is nice and springy, even better than I thought it would be, and so I don't really have a lot of complaints. The only fit and finish thing that I really noticed was, a little bit of a rough edge in a couple of places if you look real close there on the cap band. But the truth is, after the first day, I didn't notice anymore. And after a year, it'll blend in with normal wear and use. So, whatever. It's not an overly expensive pen, so it's not going to bother me as much as if it were. But that's really it. It has performed without any issue so far, and like I say, I've actually written with it quite a bit. That is keeping up really well. Just to give you a little bit of a comparison, this is that Can Write Desire, and this is called, I think, a fine flex. I think it's called a fine flex nib. I would call it a semi-flex. It is actually a fine nib, maybe even an extra fine at times. And its line is a Western Fine. Now again, it's marketed as a fine flex. I'm just going to use a line there to say this. And writing with this pen, forgetting that it's advertised as flex, I like it. Just a normal everyday pen, and it's perfectly good for that. I like the material, and it's an enjoyable pen to write with. However, when it comes to flex, that part could be a bit of a letdown if you're expecting too much, because it's not going to do this, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and try and do the same thing. And you get a nice line variation. When you don't apply pressure, it's a really nice, crisp, clean line. But I find, that's not going to do it now. I find that it's easy, there we go, easy for me to run out of ink and railroad. And it's not anywhere near as broad a line when flexing as that one. Now let me just, to be fair, let's do the same thing, see if we can do the same number of lines. We got 6 lines to railroad, okay? Look at that. That was funny. Let's just make James a liar on the first mark. That's always nice to do, ain't it? Anyway, once it got ink, it didn't run back out. So there is a definite difference in performance. So if you're thinking, oh yeah, I bought one of those steel flex nibs before and it wasn't any good, and it was this. Well, I think this is good in some ways and good for some uses, and I enjoy this pen quite a bit. But this one definitely beats it right out of the box in terms of flex. And the materials on both these pens really look quite good. So really, I guess my biggest negative is I have to give one of these up, and I don't know which one it's going to be, and it might be the one that's my favorite. But hey, that's not really a problem, because you know what? I kind of like making some of y'all happy, and I'm looking forward to shipping this pen out to somebody, whichever one you choose. So let's go over those rules. How about it? Now, how do you win this pen? Well, here's how you win the pen. First, you subscribe to the channel. Second, you like this video. Third, you make a comment down below. Fourth, you live in a country where I can actually ship you things. That does become kind of important. And fifth, no scammers welcome. So here's how you find out whether or not you've won. A week from today, December the 9th, I will post a video, and that is the only way that I will announce the winner. I will post it in a winner announcement video on December the 9th. Between now and then, if you get a comment saying, hey, you've won, contact me, do not do it. That's a scammer. They're trying to fish your information. Be careful out there. I'm not going to contact you that way. I'll announce it in a video and not simply in a comment. If you get a comment from me after the video is aired, go back and check that video to make sure that the winner announcement is legit. Then you'll email me at the email that is in the description below, and I will ship you the pen. Easy, right? And then you have a new fountain pen, or maybe you have a new gift to give to somebody over the holidays. Either way, winner, winner, chicken dinner. So good luck, and don't forget to like, share, and comment down below.